According to a report by Gizmodo, a new study published Thursday in The Lancet reaffirms that not only is alcohol one of the world's biggest killers, but that there really is no such thing as a completely safe amount of alcohol consumption. Lead author Max Griswold reportedly told Gizmodo, quote, "One of our mottos is, we need to get all of the evidence out on the table, and that's something that's really hasn't been done for alcohol before. According to Griswold, we found that there isn't really any benefit of drinking to your health, and that the safest level from a health perspective is not drinking at all."
Alcohol is pound for pound, ounce for ounce, per capita, the worst drug. In terms of cost to benefit, in terms of what it does to people, and in terms of how much society just kind of ignores how terrible it is for you. You know, and that's the thing. If you say alcohol is the worst drug, immediately it's like, oh, come on, everyone drinks, or the vast majority of people drink, or whatever. But that's a status quo argument. Just because most people drink doesn't make it anywhere near a good drug or a good activity. I'm not trying to, propose, make the argument for teetotaling. I don't think alcohol in extreme moderation is really that big of a deal. But alcohol itself is really just the worst drug. Yes, I know meth and heroin, etc., are worse per use, but the thing is, most people won't touch meth or heroin because it's so terrible. That's the danger of alcohol, is that it's just safe enough that you'll use it, and just extremely dangerous enough if you overuse it. It's a trap in a lot of ways. And as someone who's drank a lot in their life but never been, necessarily a shit-faced alcoholic or anything of that nature, I can say it's wasted a lot of my own resources, a lot of my own time and energy, and just probably negatively impacted my health, not in a horrific way because I'm only 33 and I've spent periods of my life where I don't drink, and I've spent periods of my life where I drink way too much, mainly my mid-20s. But there is literally no net benefit to alcohol. Let me be clear. You might enjoy being drunk or whatever, but it's not a net benefit. It's a net loss. Okay? Now, before you think I'm going to go on some AA rant or tell you how great sobriety is, I am as pro-cannabis as about any human being can be. I would say, by far, weed is about the best drug there is. Period. It's not really addictive, or at least not physically addictive. Anything can be mentally addictive. It doesn't really cause negative behavior other than maybe long, boring metaphors if you're way too high and don't have a lot to say. That could be. But it's one of the few drugs. Not one of the few drugs. It definitely makes you less intelligent. Okay, I've had epiphanies while high on weed. Okay, I've never had an epiphany, a true epiphany while drunk. Okay, and if I did, it was probably what an asshole I was being, and I probably just felt bad later. I've had regrettable experiences from alcohol that I probably don't go a week of my life without thinking about. And mind you, we're not talking about I killed anyone or genuinely assaulted anyone or anything like that. We're talking just being a dick type behavior. Like, and I every week of my life, I think of these incidents where I went off the rails and I was an asshole to someone. And that doesn't happen on weed. And if it does, it's probably because the person kind of had it coming. Because weed is not going to make you do that. And the opportunity cost that comes from alcohol. I mean, take forget money. I'm not going to get into that because you can always get stuff cheaper. But take the time spent at a god-awful bar around people you wouldn't associate with if your hair was on fire sober. Not all of them, but let's be real. Bars and clubs are filled with some of the worst human beings on the planet oftentimes. And that's not going to happen with a couple people who choose to associate with each other, getting high on weed or doing mushrooms or whatever. And yes, I am saying mushrooms, weed, and lysergic acid, aka LSD, are light years better and overall safer than using alcohol. Alcohol is the equivalent of that old analogy. How do you kill a wolf? You freeze blood over a knife, put it in the snow face up, and the wolf comes and licks it, and then their tongue becomes numb, and then they end up cutting their own tongue open and bleeding to death. That's alcohol. It's just bit by bit, piece by piece. Weed, there are bounds of reason, and you can't even overdose on it, so there's no real danger there. It convinces you that perhaps the problems in your life aren't that bad, when they might be. It numbs you to things you should care about. It's a sad drug, and I've seen it. I don't come from let's call it an alcoholic family. I come from a hard drinking family, where it's very social. They don't. I wouldn't. There's definitely been incidents, but very social, and you just look at like how messed up their health is as they get older, how much alcohol has negatively affected them, and I think like, wow, what if cannabis had been socially acceptable? Like, how much healthier, I have a grandfather who's clearly, you just look at his face, and yeah, he's in his 70s, I'm not trying to insult anyone, but he's in his 70s, and you can just see the capillaries in his nose just blown open, and he's been like this for decades, and he has super high blood pressure, he's had heart problems, and he's not even a hardcore drinker. He's just a habitual drinker. And, I spent about 10 months of the year 2012 not drinking. And I made the mistake of becoming this straight-edged, kind of self-righteous, not self-righteous in an extreme way, but, kind of this atheist who doesn't drink, which might actually be worse than the religious nut job who doesn't drink. Because the atheist doesn't drink wants to, it's almost like they made this brilliant choice. And what I screwed up on, after quitting drinking about February 2012 and starting again, it was a couple days before Christmas 2012. I was out at a Jewish get-together thing in Chicago, which I usually prefer to going home to the family. But I ordered a drink and think like, okay, I haven't drank in 10 months. I've been totally straight edge. I'm leaner than I've ever been. I've been super into this personality of like, I don't drink. Like I say it with pride. And then as soon as I had that first drink, head starts spinning. Alcohol hits you really hard when you haven't drank in a while. It just hammers you. You become a lightweight again. And I then just ordered another one, and then I kind of I started making this deal with myself. Like, no, I'll just get super drunk one day a month, and that I'll basically be a non-drinker. And both of those attitudes, that's the wrong attitude. My attitude towards alcohol now, I'm back, I don't want to call it on the wagon, but I've decided alcohol doesn't work for me anymore, and I should have never started again. I've been off alcohol for a week now. I can literally notice a difference in my face. Okay, it's not as the puffiness went down. I was getting puffy, and I'm not like a really fat person or anything. It's just you can see a difference, and it's and my attitude this time around, my much more sustainable attitude is, look, if I'm at a wedding or some nonsense, or sorry, I'm not a big fan of marriage. No offense to you people who want to get married. If I'm at a wedding or something and someone hands me some champagne, no problem. I'm gonna throw it back. I don't care. Okay, I'm not some hardcore alcoholic who has a psychological issue with alcohol or something, some imbalance with it. No, I can drink, but I'm not going to be a drinker. Okay, I'm not gonna. You want to drink? No, thanks. Unless it's like it just happens to be there, just happens to send it. Someone just happens to send it to me, whatever. Fair enough. And I think that's the healthiest attitude towards alcohol in this society, because as a teetotaler or a straight edge person, you're putting yourself in an incredible liability. And take it from someone smarter than me. Look up the evidence of this. When you make yourself straight edge, everything becomes binary. Oh, I'm a non-drinker. Well, the second you have that drink, okay, now you're a drinker. Well, what the hell? Throw it all away, right? What's the difference? I've started drinking. I might as well keep going. I might as well drink more. There's a scene in a kind of a bizarre, what's called an artificial snuff film. I'll look it up and put a clip of it in a second, but there's a scene where a guy is given an option.
I will give you $10,000 if you drink that glass of wine. Oh. No. No way. No. You don't understand. You have no idea how hard I've worked. Oh, but Iris here, she just devoured a pile of meat, and she's a devout vegetarian. And you won't drink a little wine.
It's totally different. Why are you doing this to me?
$50,000. If you will drink this decanter of the finest scotch that money can buy, right now, 50,000.
This is what, a test? It's not real.
Oh, no, I am deadly serious, Conway, and you know that I am. The glass of wine or the whole damn decanter? Now, it seems to me that the wine, that's pretty simple, isn't it? But the scotch, well, we could consider that a momentary lapse to change your life.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
So what would you rather do? That's a good man.
He just goes in this belligerent, like, whatever, 20 years down the pipe. That's the wrong way to look at behavior. Okay? I don't consider myself a bad person. I've done bad things. I've done horrible things. But not horrible, like irredeemable, but bad. And I can, half forgive myself. I don't want to 100% forgive myself. Because, like, I don't pretend to be perfect, anything like that. But once you adopt this persona of, like, I don't drink, period. And look, there are people who medically or whatever have to do that, and that's fine. Best of luck to them. But, like, this idea of self-improvement to the point of, like, absolutism leads to extreme behavior. It leads to it's all or nothing, and that's just not healthy, in my opinion. And that's the other thing about alcohol. It's used to warrant negative behavior. Whether it's using an excuse to run your mouth and be a jerk, or whether it's just, people lose that that bit of empathy in them that was preventing them from being an asshole. That's not something weed or LSD or ecstasy or name it. Name the drug that's supposedly more dangerous, which, by the way, it isn't. Watch, there's a great documentary. There's a great documentary where the Lancet, a medical journal, basically had the experts break down what are the 20 most dangerous drugs in order. And alcohol came in way more dangerous than most of the stuff that police and the DEA, etc., focus on, with exception like cocaine and meth, etc. But yeah, it's a joke. We have this drug that is highly institutionalized. I mean, the amount of money that's brought in from I'm here in Tampa right now. Tampa has a massive, not probably not as much as Chicago, but a massive amount of tax revenue and business comes from booze, which obviously funds the cops, who then deal with the fist fights and nonsense like that. And it's this business. It's this horrible, how do I put it? It's just this horrible cyclical economy of, like, okay, it keeps the jails running, it keeps the cops working, it keeps these profoundly inefficient, just god-awful bars and clubs. I went to, just before I quit drinking again, I went out, I strolled down the street to Soho, that's in Tampa, stroll down the street, and I rarely go out alone, but, like, I'll go out alone. Rolled in a bar, and I realized how much I just hate bars. How much, even then I was kind of buzzed. It was like one of the last times I got drunk, and it was just like, why? I understand it's like meeting someone there, like a date or something, but, like, why? Why is this part of our society? There's better things. One second. Got some drunk assholes going by the window now. Yeah, and this it robs you of your humanity. Okay, no one, virtually no one becomes a better person drunk. Okay, they might become funnier, but frankly, you should be able to develop a sense of humor without. I'm not high or drunk now. I've been off both for a week. I'm taking a hiatus from weed for about 40 days, but weed I'm very much in favor of. I say that 1,000 times if I have to. It is a drug that's therapeutic. It's of virtually no harm. I don't believe there's such a thing as no harm. There's nothing. Bread is harmful to some degree, but yeah, and it just like I was saying before, ounce for ounce. Alcohol is the most dangerous drug, okay? Cocaine, an ounce of cocaine on the streets will do less harm than what alcohol will ultimately do. Because every ounce of alcohol makes someone more physically dependent on that next ounce, and it just, it's too ingrained in society. It's accepted. We just kind of accept that, like, oh, there's these parts of town where a bunch of drunk assholes are stumbling over themselves, and that's just part of the economy. Oh, we accept that we're gonna have these horrible, these shit shows of parts of the town to generate tax revenue and such. It's nonsense. And this is a little bit, let's say, vapid. Let's be real. Alcohol just makes you dumber and to some degree uglier. I mean, maybe only just a little bit. Maybe you have a super low body fat percentage or whatever, and the puffiness or whatever never catches up to you. But I don't think you could point to a case where alcohol has had a net. I don't think you can point to a lot of cases where alcohol has had a net benefit on people's lives. I mean, Doug Stanhope has a bit about this where he says something to the effect of, if ecstasy were as available as alcohol, he would be drinking water and doing Molly. And it's like, yeah, and that'd probably be a better world if we had access to safe Molly that we could pop once or twice a week and not be horrifically addicted to. But the opportunity, it's not just the opportunity cost. It's just, you're playing into their hands. The Partnership for a Drug-Free America, for instance, who runs those propaganda, who I don't know if they still do, but runs those anti-marijuana propaganda ads, that's funded by pharma and, not just pharma and alcohol companies. Of course they want you to drink alcohol. Alcohol is profoundly profitable. When you pay $1.25 or whatever, even at the store to buy a bottle of beer, half of that is tax, so the state's already loving it. And the amount of actual net cost of producing the beer is a tiny fraction of what they're selling to you. It's the distributors, it's everyone in the chain of the system who's getting their beak wet. Meanwhile, weed, something you could grow, with a little bit of property, you could grow it basically for free. Well, of course that has to be illegal, because if it was just legal, you pretty much can't tax it. It's not physically addictive, so it's not the greatest business model. And it doesn't take that much. I've gotten high almost every day for the last 3 years. And I say high, I don't mean high like glossy eye, like, I mean high like, it's 2 in the afternoon, I'm going to take a couple hits, get a little phased. That's not something you can do with alcohol. You can't just decide at 2 in the afternoon, I'm going to get a little bit drunk and then go back to whatever I was doing. So it's just, it's just not worth it. And this is coming from someone who is by no means a prude in any way. I think if you really search within yourself and just look at the math, look at what you get out of alcohol, look what it takes from you, I think there are better alternatives. Replacement therapy is showing a lot of success, getting people on weed to get them off booze. And so, my modified version of the sort of straight-laced, straight-edge AA sponsor type attitude is like, no, weed. it's not going to kill you. It's not, and other than maybe making you apathetic towards things that don't matter, which unfortunately is an issue because it sometimes makes people apathetic towards their bullshit jobs. I don't think there's a lot of danger, and I think that danger can be largely circumvented by just saying fuck it and plowing forward. But yeah, if I could give any advice to people listening to this, take it from someone who is very left-wing, who is extremely socially liberal in just about every way. Try to give up alcohol. and replace it with weed if you have to. And it's not. I regret starting drinking again in 2012, and by drinking I mean, like I said, habitually drinking. I don't care. I'm not gonna punch myself in the face for having a drink or two. Okay, if it's handed to me. Okay, if it's a matter of there's an event and I'm just well, I shouldn't have said drink or two. Like if it's just incidental, but you're probably getting mildly drunk with just a little bit of mouthwash in your mouth, in a superfluous way. So, by all means, that's my advice. I would say, by all means, quit drinking. Try it. And those first 4 days, you fall into this trap. I fell into the trap for the last couple of years where I kept like, oh, I'm going to quit drinking. I'm going to quit drinking. I'm finally going to get back on that. And because I would start to get these flu-like symptoms. Not even from drinking a lot. Drinking 2 Long Islands. That's my thing. I like to have 2 Long Islands on like a Tuesday or Wednesday or Thursday. And then sometimes I screw up and have like one more. And it compounds. You keep feeling sad and sick and tired. And it just keeps compounding on top of itself. And then eventually, the best cure for that mild perpetual hangover is just more booze. And it goes away at about 4 days. I'm not the only one who said this. There's a decent TED talk about alcoholics where they said about 4 days is when it goes away. And yeah, that's true. About day 4, you're going to feel a lot better. But then there's a part of you that mind fucks yourself and is saying, no. I got it now. Well, you probably don't. I mean, it's probably just going to bring you right back around. And if you really have an attitude like mine of, fuck the man or whatever you want to call it, this sort of nonconformist, I hate this, system kind of thinking, you should recognize that this isn't worth it. It isn't worth it. It's the man who wants you, for lack of a better term. It's the establishment who wants you on alcohol because it gives you that, that aggressive. Alcohol is not going to make anyone question capitalism. Let's put it that way. Alcohol is not going to be what brings you over the edge. In fact, there's evidence out of Australia done for some election study that found alcohol actually makes people more right wing. So alcohol is not going to turn people into peaceful, hippie, nonconformist, or whatever, or communist, or syndicalist. I'm a syndicalist if I'm showing my own cards. It's not going to do that. It's going to make you another angry asshole at the bar. Maybe not, but let's be real. That's probably what it's going to do. Angry asshole at the bar. Who's got bloodshot eyes. You got that nose where it's just busted out. The nose where whatever happens with your blood pressure, it fucks up your nose so bad. And it's not worth it. I was on a date with an amazing woman just a little bit before Christmas last year. Super hot black chick. And, I'm within like 2 hours of us meeting, we're just so into each other, and I'm giving her this great massage. She's like practically sitting on my lap, and these southern folk, this was in Ocala, Florida, these southern folk come over like, oh, you guys are so good looking, etc. And we're just loving it. And it's like, and yeah, we were drinking, but we would have been enjoying ourselves either way. And she had no issue with me being a cannabis user. I made that clear. Like, yeah, I'm into weed. She's like, oh, yeah, whatever. I mean, she's a younger person. She's not going to care. But I slipped up. We were going back and forth through text messaging, and things were going great. And I basically said, oh, I've been feeling sick lately because I drank like 10 days in a row, which to me didn't even sound crazy. Because I'm just like, oh, I just drink, 2 Long Islands or whatever. And this is after coming back from my family in Illinois. And I drank so much in like those 10 days. I was feeling super sick. And she basically replied with like, hey, I like people who are healthy, that's not going to work for me. And I kind of bullshitted myself. I wouldn't say I lied to her. And I'm like, oh, no. Yeah, I just been drinking a little too much. I'm totally going to get off again. And I kind of ghosted her after that. I didn't keep replying because I knew, I was drinking. I was pretty sure I was drinking at the time I texted that. That's what alcohol does. It's just slow burn. Weed won't do that. Okay, find me a case where weed has done that to someone's life outside of being harassed by law enforcement or whatever. Weed doesn't ruin your life. Like Bill Murray says, the most dangerous thing that can happen to you with weed is getting caught with it or getting arrested with it. It itself is about as natural and about as safe a drug as you're going to get. But if I'm being real, I think the best drug and I'm not going to say I support people doing this, but help me, would be lysergic acid, aka LSD. If you can get it 100% pure, and there's ways to test it, I think everyone who is ready for it, who is mentally healthy enough to be ready to see what's inside their mind, should try LSD. Because, and like I said, there's precautions to take with LSD. You don't do it out and about. You don't do it when you're in the middle of, mourning something necessarily. But, do it when you're in a good state of mind. And I'll tell you, LSD will bring you to epiphanies that all the alcohol in the world, you'll die of alcohol poisoning 100 times over before alcohol ever gets you anywhere near there. In fact, who am I kidding? Alcohol takes you away from epiphanies. It makes you not think. It makes you docile to this fucking system. But yeah. So I had an experience on LSD that, as a stone cold atheist, I can't describe it as anything but spiritual. That's another thing. Spirituality and religion are two different things in many cases. Where I was just tripping out on this, like, oh my God, I can see like where my brain is piecing together the video data that's reaching my eyes. Like I can see where like my brain is putting together, and I can like kind of see how everything's connected. And I went out walking outside, which is awesome to do when you're tripping. And I went outside, and I'm walking around Tampa on a sidewalk. It's on a weekday, real late at night, and suddenly I feel almost like a television screen like turned on above my head. Like I could see it, but I wasn't looking up there. It's hard to explain, but and it was me, and what it showed was a news show, sort of like that doesn't exist. This was all manufactured in my mind, and I was on the news show. I was sitting there, about to be interviewed, like in one of those panel tables, and I started just spewing these statistics about, I might not even been saying it, might have been my mind just filling in the data, but about how it's possible to upgrade the infrastructure of humanity and raise everyone's living standards, and how, the way we live is completely obsolete and exploitative and horrible. And then the one of the newscasters, this all happened in my brain. Like as I'm walking, I'm just like, oh my God, I'm watching this. And I think I might have stopped because it was just like that overwhelming. And as I'm doing this, I have this moment where I look, the me in my vision, like looks at the camera, so to speak, and is eyeballing me, the manufactured image in my mind is like looking straight, and it goes like, flip the switch. Like take the trillions of dollars that's spent, about 10 trillion according to the World Economic Forum, $10 trillion a year that's spent on war and its externalities every year, and just flip the script. Build the decentralized systems that'll upgrade that'll upgrade the system so food, clothing, and housing become profoundly cheap and accessible, and we eliminate the scarcity and essentially eradicate capitalism, because without those inefficiencies, capitalism largely can't exist. And I just start screaming, flip your switch. Like in my head, I'm not actually running around like a psychopath. And I'm like, my eyes are tearing up, and I'm just like, oh my God, like this is the most, like, yes, this is what this is what my cause should be. And that's where I came up with the concept, or that's where I came up with the idea to come out with a channel called neohumanity, which I did not make up that term. That was, I got that term from something called Initiative 2045 or 2045 Initiative, which is a goal to basically allow people to live inside computers within like 20 years and end all war, etc. through technology. And I had this epiphany while I was doing it. It's like, this is so possible. Because, not just because it's scientifically possible, which I'm not the first person to point that out, I'm not the smartest person to point that out, plenty of people more credible than me look into it have pointed this out. But it was just this epiphany of like, why? And I went through this thing called ego death, which if you haven't experienced it, it's either going to be horrible for you, but maybe necessary, or it's going to be very liberating, where you just realize you can like feel yourself in third person, and you realize that you're just a robot. Like, we're just organic robots, okay? You're not special by default. You might become special. You might be special to some people in some scenarios, but you are not anything special by default. You are some dumbass robot who evolved somehow. And it makes you realize how insignificant you are, which just, it was so liberating. There's definitely cases where people have flipped out a little bit, like just started crying, like, "Oh my God, stay away from me," because they can't handle the truth. But even in those cases, I think it's a good thing. Even when someone, it tears them up inside, they should be exposed to ego death. So that's my rant for the week. Alcohol is the worst drug, and the best is arguably weed, but I wouldn't rule out lysergic acid. And to be clear, I'm not promoting the use of it. Do your own research. Please subscribe.
2045 to 2050, drastic changes in social structure and in scientific and technological development. All the prerequisites for space expansion are established. For the man of the future, war and violence are unacceptable. The main priority of his development is spiritual self-improvement. A new era dawns. The era of neo-humanity.